Good morning. Morning where I am in the world. Happy Thursday. Welcome to Mrs. Globe IGTV show called Sparkle On. Every week on Sparkle On, we get to meet our Mrs. Globe alumni, who we fondly call the Globettes, and we get to find out where they are in the world right now. I am Tia HUNSPERGER and I am your host today. So before we get too far into the show, I want to find out who's watching and where everyone is in the world. So if you're a Mrs. Globe alumni, post your title down below and tell us who you are and what part of the world you represented when you competed at the Mrs. Globe or one of our division pageants. And then tell me where in the world you are coming from. Today we're going to be virtually visiting the Hawaiian Islands, so I am excited to find out where you are all coming from, why we get everyone logged in to join and watch our show today. I do want to start out by thanking you all for joining me today for a very important edition, I will call it, episode of Mrs. Globe IGTV Sparkle On. Who remembers a few years back when the world was doing the Ice Bucket Challenge? It was happening all over the world. We were seeing it on Instagram. Our friends, our family members were doing it, as well as celebrities all over the world. It was meant to bring attention to a disease called ALS. And for those of you who aren't familiar with ALS, it's also known as Lou Gehrig's disease. The symptoms of ALS include loss of motor skills, loss of muscle control, and can include difficulty speaking, swallowing, and much, much more. We're going to learn more about some of the symptoms of ALS today. But the reason I'm here to talk about ALS today is because it has impacted the Mrs. Globe organization a couple of times over the last few years. Many of you from all over the world, wherever you are, if you competed in the Mrs. Globe organization, you may have met our Director of Safety and Security, Neil Foley. Neil was diagnosed with ALS a handful of years ago. Last year, one of our other members, Pebblz, who we fondly call her Pebblz, Charlene Ronquilio is her legal name, I believe, but she was our Mrs. Hawaii Globe back in 2005. Pebblz was diagnosed in September, a little over a year ago, and we're going to bring her on today, and she's going to be my guest. So before we get too far into the interview, I do just want to say a little bit about Pebblz, tell you a little bit more about her, and share a little bit about kind of who she is as a person outside of her ALS story. So Pebblz is 54 and lives on the beautiful island of Oahu. She has two children. She has a daughter who is 31 named Chantal, and she has a son who is 26 named Kamana. She has two adorable grandchildren, Callum, who is 2.5, and Talia, who is 5 months. And she finishes out her family with 3 French bulldogs. Their names are Storm, Zeus, and Harley. Pebblz has spent her career working in human resources, and she's currently a human resource manager, although she has been furloughed during the pandemic. She's the owner and promoter of 2 national qualifiers for NPC bodybuilding, physique, and fitness competitions in Hawaii, and they are called the Stingray Classic and the Aloha Muscle. What I find one of the most interesting facts about Pebbl's athletic accomplishments is she played competitive roller derby for 8 years. And yes, we said roller derby. Pebblz was diagnosed with ALS on 9/11/2019. She had early signs of ALS about 2 years prior to her final diagnosis, but this diagnosis clearly changed her life forever. ALS is a terminal disease, and currently there is no cure. It has no mercy, and doctors gave her 2 to 5 years to live. Her goal is to bring awareness to the community about ALS, as well as bringing more awareness to employers and health insurance companies. She says, if we don't have a cure, we need resources to live as comfortably as we can. And her motto is to live life to the fullest as if there's no tomorrow. When she told me that that was her motto, it just seems so fitting of Pebblz. For those of you who know her, I think she lived that way, 20 years ago when we competed at the pageant together. And I think she's really living that way even more so now. So I asked some of our alumni who know Pebblz what they most admired about her. And they shared how upbeat she always was, that she has an amazingly peaceful soul. The person who shared that with me, it's like Hawaii is such a peaceful place, and she kind of carries that through her soul as she travels the world. They shared how beautiful she was on the outside, but also how beautiful she was on the inside as well. And that she's a total badass. And I mean that in the best way possible. We're going to learn more about that. In many other pageants, women come and go. Contestants are part of the organization for a period of time, and then it's kind of like they ride off into the sunset and we never hear from them again. But that's not how it is at Mrs. Globe. And for those of you who are part of our organization, you know how true that is. And in the Mrs. Globe organization, even when life gives us challenges, we stay connected with each other and we support each other however we can from wherever we are in the world. Coretta, thank you for sharing that comment about Pebblz. She does have a great sense of humor. You'll hear she even has a couple jokes in our interview today. So you'll get to hear a little bit more about her personality and her sense of humor today. I feel really lucky to have the opportunity to interview Pebblz today. And if I seem emotional and if I have some tears today, it's really about how brave she is going through her journey. As I bring Pebblz on, Pebblz, if you're out there, if you want a request to join, I will bring you on and we'll get you added to the show so we can start our interview together. As I bring Pebblz on, I do want to share that Pebblz is not able to speak. So she will be using a tool that is called Edge, and that will provide her the ability to speak and share with us today. So Pebblz, welcome. I'm so excited to have you on the show today.
Hi, Tia. Thank you for having me. I am honored and privileged to be a Mrs. Globe alumni and be on today's show. Thank you for allowing me to share my ALS journey.
Pebblz, I really feel honored that we get to talk today. So Pebblz, you and I had the chance to meet in 2005. You were representing Hawaii as Mrs. Hawaii Globe, and we competed together in Palm Springs. What do you most remember about our time together in Palm Springs?
I have so many memories. From creating lifetime friendships, cultural night, the beautiful dresses, watching the families we sponsored on stage during the fashion show, but most of all, Dr. Tracy's classes. I will never forget how empty my survival toolbox was. I left Palm Springs with so much knowledge and my tools and resources. This pageant system changed my life forever. I began to love myself again. I created boundaries and realized I can't help anyone till I help myself. This was not your ordinary pageant. It was a life-changing experience.
It truly is such a life-changing experience, Pebblz, and I'm so glad we got to meet and spend time together. back in 2005. So since 2005, it's been a long time. Pebblz, share a little bit with us about what you've been up to.
Well, so much has happened. I continued volunteering at shelters for women and children whom were affected by domestic violence and child abuse. I assisted them with job placement, restraining orders, permanent housing, and financial assistance. I had the opportunity to speak at high schools across the state and share my story. I became the president of Honolulu Executive Association, Woman of the Year from Professional Women Association, started 2 bodybuilding, fitness, and physique competitions, and started playing competitive roller derby. I also became grandmother of 2.
Wow, Pebblz, that's a long list of accomplishments in that time. So Pebblz, I know you're an athlete. You mentioned a little bit about that. I personally have loved watching your social media over the years, and I love the fact that you had a roller derby career. Tell us a little bit more about your athletic accomplishments.
I have always been physically active. I have competed in bodybuilding for several years, but I decided I love pizza and pasta way too much. Laugh out loud. Besides starting our own shows, I wanted to do more for the Hawaii fitness community. I have been judging NPC shows for 4 years. Additionally, I played competitive roller derby for 8 years. I think I hit my midlife crisis at this point. I had the opportunity to skate competitively throughout the United States. Just like in pageant, I met some amazing women that are now friends for life. Playing roller derby in my 40s with women in their 20s and 30s were both physically and emotionally challenging to me. But I loved every minute of it.
Pebblz, I like pizza and snacks too, so I'm right there with you on that. So Pebblz, tell us a little bit. When did you start having your symptoms that led you to your ALS diagnosis?
I was diagnosed with ALS on September 11th, 2019. I had symptoms of drop foot and weakness in my left hand a year prior to my diagnosis.
So Pebblz, can you educate us a little bit more? I think a lot of us are overall familiar with ALS because we've seen people on TV and in the news that have been diagnosed with us. But can you tell us a little bit more about different types of ALS and then how it progresses in different individuals?
There are 2 different types of ALS. Familial, which runs in the family, and sporadic, which happens sometimes with no cause. I have sporadic ALS. The beginning symptoms is either bulbar onset, which first affects the throat and speech, or limb onset, which affects the limbs. I was diagnosed September 9th, 2019. At this time I experienced foot drop and twitching all over my body. Today, a little over a year, I am bound to a wheelchair. I can't speak. I have a feeding tube. My fingers and toes are curling. This is a horrible disease. It's like I'm trapped in my own body.
For sure, for sure. I know that's one of the things when Dr. Tracy and I were talking the other day about your interview, she really wanted me to emphasize that ALS is your body is failing, but your brain is still working. And I can imagine how it feels like you are trapped in your own body for sure. So Pebblz, when this diagnosis came, and this is a big question, but how did it impact your family?
Wow, this is a heavy-handed question. Initially, my family was in shock. They jumped on their computer and started Googling ALS. We didn't know anything about this disease. They were in denial. I finally told them, I have accepted this and they needed to accept it too. From there, we were able to move forward. My family is my main support system. My sisters, mom and dad live on the mainland. My primary caregiver is my 26-year-old son. He helps with my infusions, daily chores, and keeps me motivated. He works full-time, so I'm alone a good part of the days. My family supports me when I'm most vulnerable. My daughter blessed me with 2 grandbabies. She's very strong and helps me when she is not working or chasing her 2.5-year-old. My family knows I'm a fighter and know I will turn this negative situation into something positive.
Of course, Pebblz, that's always who you are to find a challenge and find something incredible out of it. I don't know if you saw this, but when you were talking about your son caring for you, he poked his head behind you in the camera, so we got to see his handsome face there for a minute. That's amazing that you have your kids, and I bet it's such a thrill to watch your daughter chase those two grandbabies around the house, for sure, for sure. So Pebblz, you know, I know each day you probably face some incredible challenges since your diagnosis. Where do you draw your inspiration and hope for each day when you get up and have, you know, new things to accomplish?
Well, I had two choices: either sit on my pity potty or use this opportunity to make a difference. I chose to make a difference. Before God sends me home, I need to bring awareness to this awful disease. We need to educate the community, government, FDA, and healthcare providers on ALS. We need a cure and better resources. Back in September 2019, I started a Facebook group called Pebblz Ronquilio, Her Journey with ALS. Several members have ALS or lost someone to this disease. I wake up each morning for them. They are my inspiration and motivation.
For sure, Pebblz. I joined that group and I've been watching your posts, and I know that you really have found a supportive community there, both that you can support and that they can support you as well. So if anybody wants to join, we'll share Pebblz social media, and if you have any questions for Pebblz and aren't able to connect to her, we can definitely connect you up through Mrs. Globe to her social media as well. So Pebblz, what would you say through this whole process you have most learned about yourself?
I have learned so much about myself. I am stronger than I thought I was. I am at peace with myself and my God. And I am loved by many. I often refer myself to a butterfly, fragile but brave and strong.
For sure. Pebblz, I bet those of us that know you in the Mrs. Globe organization and have stayed connected through social media, we always knew you were strong. It just took some time for you to realize how strong you were as well. So Pebblz, I know that you and I have been trying to schedule this interview for a number of months, and we had pushed it out a couple times because you weren't sure that you would be able to speak. Today, you are using a tool called the Eye Gaze Edge, and it's helping us to communicate. Tell me a little bit more about what it's meant to you to have this as a resource in your daily life.
I love this device. I am still getting used to it. Each day I use it, it will get easier and easier. I will never hear my voice again, but I am grateful I can still communicate.
For sure. I can imagine. I would imagine with your son helping you all the time, you guys probably have some moments where you can communicate just by looks on your faces and laughs. But to have that tool is probably an immense help as well, for sure. So Pebblz, you have really been faced with some life-changing challenges with this diagnosis over the last year and a half. What advice would you give to other women in our organization or outside for that matter who face challenges, whether that's medical related or some other type of life-changing challenges? What advice do you have for them?
Whatever you are going through, take it day by day or minute by minute. Reach out to someone. Talk to someone. You are not alone. And it is okay to feel sad. Just don't forget to stand up and dust yourself off.
For sure, dusting ourselves off is important, and I think for so many of us, you know, in the pageant world especially, we are seen by others as like we got our act all together, but you know, we all got some issues. We all have some challenges that we face, obviously some bigger than others, but I think that advice to be comfortable asking for help is really important, whatever it is. I think even in this pandemic, there's so many people that have needed to ask for help, reach out and ask for help, that don't normally have that that need. And so I think that's great advice for the whole world right now, because we're all in situations where we need help occasionally. So Pebblz, it has been an honor to catch up with you today. Before we wrap up, let us know how we can support you.
No. Thank you, Dr. Tracy, and my Globe sisters for giving me this opportunity. For more information on ALS, please visit www.als.org.
Well, Pebblz, it has been such a pleasure. I can't express enough how much it means to me and to the organization to have you here, to be able to support you. Like I said, for any of you watching that want to connect with Pebblz that aren't already connected with her, reach out to Mrs. Globe and we will get you connected via social media with Pebblz. We're happy to do that. And Pebblz, if there's anything else you'd like to share, I know it's tough for you to share spur of the moment, but send me a message and I am happy to share that with our community on your behalf. Thank you so much. I hope it's a sunny, beautiful day in Hawaii today. I'm here in Denver, Colorado, and it's cold and we're getting some snow tomorrow. So I'm jealous. I wish I was in Hawaii and enjoying some sunshine and warm weather there. I am going to wrap up today. Thank you, Pebblz, so much for joining us. For those of you who haven't watched Mrs. Globe's Sparkle on before, this is an exact example of why we want to catch up with our alumni, find out where they are, what they're up to. Good news, sad news, hard news. We want to share that with each other and be able to support each other as well. So Pebblz, before I say goodbye, I want to say thank you. It's been a pleasure. Please stay connected. We'll follow you on your social media. And we send lots and lots of virtual hugs and kisses from around the world. We love you.